Hello you demons and happy Friday. I hope y'all had a great week because today we got a video plan that's going to make you want to double check your grandparents' belongings. You know, those creepy things in the attic, that doll that looks just a little too realistic with human eyes. Yeah, those types of things. We are going to be going over 8 cursed items. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce number 1, which is the cursed Basano vase of Italy. Our legend begins in 15th century Napoli, Italy. During a wedding, a soon-to-be bride was gifted a beautifully crafted silver vase. As not to lose it, she left it in her room and returned to the festivities. However, she was nowhere to be seen when it was time to approach the altar. Thinking she had just gotten cold feet, a search for her ensued. After some time, the husband had the unfortunate luck of finding her lying on the ground gripping the vase with rigor mortis. On that special day, she had fallen victim to what would be the long line of deaths caused by this cursed vase. After her funeral, her prized vase was then given to another family member for safekeeping, and as you could have expected, that family member was later found days later dead. Becoming justifiably suspicious of the vase, the family reached out to the church for help. It was then speculated that the vase had been cursed by the gifter, and the priest instructed them to bury it on sacred ground to prevent it from spreading its curse any further. However, much like every scary movie with a cursed item, it returned. In 1988, an unnamed man dug it up and discovered a note along with the vase warning, "Beware, this vase brings death." And as expected, this man ignored the warning and auctioned it off for $2,270 to a pharmacist. Only months later, the pharmacist was found dead. At this point, nobody was willing to possess the vase out of fear, but there's always an unlucky soul to bear the curse. An archaeologist, against his family's wishes, purchased this vase. Over the course of the next few months, a mysterious infectious disease killed the archaeologist. The family, knowing exactly what had happened, decided to drive far away from their house and toss the vase out the window, only to catch the attention of an officer with it. Unable to locate the owners, the officer went to various museums to only be refused by each one due to them knowing the dark curse that followed the vase. Listening to the warnings, unlike every horror movie, the cop decided to bury the vase in a lead box in an unknown cemetery. It's there that the vase is said to lay waiting for the next unlucky victim to strike. Depending on what source you go to, some of the details change here and there, but one thing remains the same, and it's that people have been unfortunately cursed and have died because of this vase. Coming in at number 2 is our Women of Lem statue. Found in 1878, this crude depiction of a god was found in the region of Lem in Europe. However, after many connected deaths involving the statue, it quickly adopted the new name as the Goddess of Death. Its spree began with a person named Lord Elephant of the British colonies. After acquiring the statue, 7 members of his family had suffered its curse and passed. After witnessing its curse firsthand, Elephant decided to rid the statue from his life. Although, like we will see with many of these items on this list, it would only continue to curse others and make its mark on their lives and history. Ivor Minucci was its next owner of the statue and had lost his entire family in only 4 years. Its next owner, Lord Thompson Noel, suffered the exact same 4-year curse and lost his entire family as well. From then, its whereabouts went unknown till Sir Alan Biverbook had it in his possession, however, met a grim yet alternate fate. After his wife and 2 daughters, and eventually himself, passed, his 2 sons donated the statue to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh, Scotland, and in return spared themselves from the curse. However, it would claim the life of the museum curator as its last victim. It even is enforced now that whoever needs to absolutely touch it must wear gloves. There it lies in wait for its next victim behind a museum glass. Coming in at number 3 is one you may have heard about, Otzi the Iceman. This next cursed item is actually in fact one of the oldest naturally preserved mummies held in Europe. He was discovered on September 19th, 1991 on the border of Austria and Italy with various wounds, but most notably an arrowhead embedded in his left shoulder. During his excavation, they were using heavy machinery to remove his lower half from the location, but like a bad omen or a warning, the bad weather forced them to pack up early. When fully excavated, the head forensic scientist that physically touched Otzi soon died after in a tragic car accident on his way to lecture about his findings. This death only marked the first of many unnaturally connected deaths. Kurt Fritz, the lead expeditionist, died later in an avalanche. Even outside the occupational hazards, journalist Rainier Hotzitl passed at age 47 from a brain tumor months after releasing a documentary about the excavation. Even going back to the tourist, Helmut Simon, who originally found it, was found dead, frozen in the same spot in 2004. Within an hour of his funeral, the lead of the mountain rescue team died of a heart attack. A forensic analyst working on this also... My handwriting is atrocious! A forensic analyst working on this, as well as 2 skeptics, were the next victims. One of the skeptics was even quoted with saying that it's all media hype. The next thing you'll be saying is, I'll be next. He later passed due to complications with multiple sclerosis. Now, this isn't to say that all the deaths were related. However, there are such a large amount recorded surrounding this one event that it's hard not to draw any conclusion. Otzi now rests in the refrigerated display room in the Tyrol Archaeological Refrigerated Display Room. What the fuck? Otzi now rests in the refrigerated display room in the Tyrol Archaeological Museum in Basano, Italy. You know, after researching that one, I kind of just accepted my fate and, did it for the sake of the YouTube video. But if I die soon, you know what happened. You all here know what happened. But it's okay, I'm sure I'll be fine. Coming in at number 4 is Busby's stoop chair. Now, this cursed item actually starts with a fun little story. I say fun like it doesn't involve murder, but just stick around. A man known as Thomas Busby was the owner of an inn around the 1700s in North Yorkshire. He was known as the town drunk and was involved with many illegal activities or actions. One day, his father-in-law, Daniel Atwood, confronted him about his actions and his daughter's safety. However, Busby in his drunken state was only focused and enraged by the fact that Atwood was sitting in his favorite bar chair. Hours later, Daniel left the inn and Busby only stewed in his anger. He later made his way to Atwood's house and bludgeoned him to death with a hammer. Shortly after, authorities captured him and sentenced him to death by hanging. Before being hanged, he yelled a curse to everybody, stating whoever sat in his chair was destined to die. Since then, the bar was renamed Busby's Stoop, and the chair was fixed 8 feet above the floor to not be sat in. However, this was only done after a supposed 60 deaths occurred. One of the stories talks about 2 airmen who dared each other to sit in the chair, and eventually, both sat in the chair and went on their way to do one of their flyover missions. This is when they unfortunately were shot down and both died in the line of duty. Other stories involve sudden weird brain tumor anomalies and heart attacks that just happen for no reason. One thing that confused me though is why did it take 60 people to finally figure out, hey, this chair is killing people, maybe we should, get rid of it or put it in the attic somewhere. But no, they were just like, oh, hey, it's a little weird. Maybe after 12 people, maybe you'd want to do something about it. No, they were just like, huh, weird. Anyways. And just like that, we are halfway through the video. And if you guys have been liking it so far, please leave a like down there below and subscribe for more spooky stories like this. I got a lot of them. There's a whole playlist for you guys. I'm sure I'll leave a link down there at the end of the video. But hey, without further ado, thank you very much. And let's get on to story number 5. Coming in for our 5th story is one that you also might be familiar with, the Hope Diamond. Found in India in 1642, it's said that it was stolen by a merchant from a Hindu temple. From there, it was passed amongst French royalty like Marie Antoinette from the late 1600s through the 1700s. For you history buffs out there, I think you can imagine what happened in the 1700s. From being cast out, falling ill, or simply being beheaded, those who wore this diamond were doomed to meet an awful fate. Honestly, this is why we just don't steal things from nice people or temples. Fast forward to America in 1958, a mail carrier by the name of James Todd was entrusted to ship the diamond to the Smithsonian, and did so successfully. However, soon after, he was involved in a truck accident, his house burnt down, and finally he had a head injury. This only added to the already long list of 14 people, each with unique tragedies. Now, fun fact about that one, did you know that it's actually commonly mistaken for the heart of the sea? Yeah, I know, I wasn't aware of that until I started looking up and researching about the Hope Diamond, but yeah, I guess people thought that it was on the Titanic, which would kind of make sense considering, Coming in at number 6 is one that I thought was actually pretty interesting. It's the story of Bela Lugosi's haunted mirror. Yes, you heard right, the Wolfman and Dracula himself owned a cursed mirror, and apparently he was also a fan of the occult. He was especially interested in something called scrying. This is the practice of staring into a medium such as a crystal ball or mirror to look for visions of the past or spirits. If that wasn't already scary enough, after the passing of his wife, he was said to practice this even more. Over the years and after experiencing weird anomalies, the previous mirror's owner gave it to a paranormal investigator and collector of history's evil or cursed items, Zach Baggins. Yes, Zach Baggins, the same one from Ghost Hunters. He said that she was desperate to get rid of it and had experienced seeing a dark entity in the mirror. No further accounts from Zach Baggins have been reported, however, there it lies amongst various evil or cursed items in Zach's museum. While Mr. Baggins has collected a few very interesting cursed items, he also collected some very messed up items like John Wayne Gacy's paintings and things like that. And while, you know, it is related to a serial killer, I just kind of find it problematic, if you know what I mean. But that doesn't have to do this video. Let's move on to number 7. We have the story of the Swansea Devil. In a museum in Wales lies a terrifying statue of a grinning devil with a sinister and oddly petty history. In the 1990s, St. Mary's Church was in need of renovations and looked for an architect for its work. A local architect submitted a request but was denied. Instead, the church settled on a random person to work on it. This infuriated the architect, and he began to plot his revenge. He proceeded to buy various plots of land around the church and created office buildings, with one of them having a devil carving on top of it looking down at the church. He proclaimed that when your church is destroyed and burnt to the ground, my devil will remain laughing. In a weird, evil prophecy, during World War II, German bombers destroyed everything in that area, including the church and several of the architect's buildings, except one. The devil remained smiling down on the rubble of a church. During the restoration of the area, the devil and its perch were knocked down, and it was discovered in a garage around 1980, 100 years later. And the town wanted to put it back up, looking over the church. The church, of course, thought otherwise. But the devil now resides in a local museum where it can't curse any churches or cause any petty damage. And last but very much not least is Tutankhamun's curse. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about the Curse of Ra, if not a large majority of you have, but I bet you don't know the complete story of the Curse of Tutankhamun. Of course, British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the tomb in 1922. It was one of the few unplundered and undisturbed tombs, till 1922, that had existed and made world news. It wasn't long after till the quoted evil elemental spirit came for its revenge. Lord Carnarvon, the funder of the project, died in Cairo right before all of the city's lights mysteriously went out. This marked the start of a long series of mysterious deaths, 22 to be exact. The mummy's radiologist died in 1924, the excavation team died from arsenic poisoning, Carter's personal secretary was found smothered in his bed, and another committed suicide. That's just to name a few. However, what about Carter himself? He was infuriated by this supposed curse talk and called it Tommy rot, whatever that means. He was found in 1939 at the age of 64 dead from Hodgkin's disease, alone and unhappy in his London flat or apartment. Now, some of these deaths can just be, purely coincidental, but something that just doesn't sit right is the fact that there are so many deaths after discovering these items or bodies. That is why I think these 8 items are in fact cursed. But thank you so much for sticking around and watching the full thing. If you guys like this, please leave a like down there below, and don't forget to subscribe for more spooky content like this. I have a whole playlist talking about cursed items and just all this fun stuff. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great Friday, and stay spooky. Bye-bye.